What is up, everybody? You know who it is. We're back and better than ever. It's our allies behind enemy lines. Ryan and Joey coming at you thoroughly behind enemy lines, live on YouTube. Live on YouTube. Make sure you check us out here on YouTube.
No,
Make sure
Facebook. I'm sorry, we're live on Facebook.
We're live on Facebook.
Hey, that's the good thing about being live.
So if you're here on Facebook,
yeah, there you go.
we're live on Facebook. So if you're here following us on Facebook, you know where to find us at Allies Behind Enemy Lines Podcast. Go ahead and check us out on YouTube as well. You can search Allies Behind Enemy Lines Podcast. You'll find us there. Notifications on. Make sure you're subscribed. So as soon as we drop this video, if you're not able to tune in live, you can watch it back, the recorded version of it. You're notified as soon as we drop it. You can also check us out anywhere you find your podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We are also on SoundCloud, all by searching Allies Behind Enemy Lines. Check us out on Twitter at AlliesBEL. All our links are there. Probably should have just started with that. You can find all our links in the bio. You can also find a link to the best t-shirt podcast, the best podcast t-shirt, I should say, ever made. Hashtag we all need allies. That is the code word, the phrase that pays around here. Hashtag we all need allies. Feels good, makes you look good. If you look good, you feel good. You feel good, you play good, or podcast good. And then hopefully if you podcast good, eventually they start to pay good. Joey, we've been off for a couple weeks now. Schedules get a little mixed around. Got music playing again because that intro is so fire. We wanted to hear just a little snippet of it. So we missed 1 week because I was actually on vacation with the family. Missed last week because, again, those schedules, you know, you're starting back to school. You're running the show down there. You're the big boss man, El Jefe, running the show. But we're back, ready to check in on preseason. How's it going? How have you been?
Well, I wouldn't call myself El Jefe. I'm not a big boss. Maybe of the kids. Maybe definitely of the kids. So it's been
That's
good.
All that matters.
Yes, it is. I guess that's all that matters. Yeah, it's been good, but I've been, just trying to get that schedule realigned, going from the summer frame of mind to just kind of unplugging completely and letting everything just kind of, I guess, digest over the last 18 months during this crazy pandemic, and then kind of just going back to that. So it's been my focus has definitely been more on that than more than anything else. Right? But I have been keeping up with the preseason and, definitely keeping up with our Washington football team. And, I'm a little indifferent right now. I don't know if I feel as confident as I have. I'm sure we're going to get into it. To get very granular is a term I like to use a lot now. But I think we're going to get very granular with it. Yeah, just to say I'm not at all. I should say, I don't know. I'm down compared to where we were.
That's fair. That's fair. Before we get into it, speaking of granular, did you get a new camera? Because, I mean, that thing is that's like the camera that they have on the field. That's like 8K right now, I feel like.
No, I haven't. This is the same camera I've used on our last episode. Maybe I just look a lot more HD. Maybe we're recording or broadcasting at a different time of the day. I don't know. Does it feel?
Yeah, I don't know. You just look like I said, you look like you like that 8K camera, whatever it is that they have on the field. I was just... Anyway, but yeah, so let's go ahead and get right into it. I know what you're saying. Let's go ahead and head the direction you're going. The quarterback play hasn't been great, hasn't been what we thought it might be, might not be what we have built up in our head of what we thought it could be. When you look at a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick, you got to take the good with the bad. We've said that. You got to take the big shots, the bad interceptions. You got to take the poor decision making, maybe the gunslinger mentality. You got to take the good with the bad. And thus far, I don't know that there's been more good or more bad, but I think the bad has been worse than the good, if that makes sense, right? We've seen some bad passes, we've seen some good passes, but I wouldn't say there's been more of one or the other. Like I said, just the bad ones have been really bad. The good ones have been like, hey, that's a good pass. He's got some chemistry going with Terry McLaurin is what you want. You'd hope that he's able to rebuild that chemistry with Adam Humphries, Curtis Samuel finally getting back on the field, getting off the injured list, the PUP list, and the COVID list, trying to work his way in there. And the coaching staff said they're comfortable with him, missing this time because he knows the system. He's comfortable with the system. Well, that's great, but it's a new quarterback. You got to learn timing. You got to build some of that rapport there with Fitz or Heineke, whoever it may be. So we'll start off focusing on Fitz, and I'll kind of tee you up there of what you think, what you've seen from him, and kind of your assessment of the situation.
Well, I mean, I'm just like everybody else. Like you said, you Fitz is Fitz. We're gonna get what we're gonna get. But I expected a lot more from him at this point, especially in the last game. The first game is whatever, didn't play very much. We saw the good, shot to McLaurin, and him moving the ball up the field a little bit. But it was nothing like this is. It looked like someone that was holding back, or didn't care. You can look at it two different ways. And then the next game, again, it's like he tried a little bit harder. It seemed like he was trying to make, like he was, this time I don't even know if he was really trying that hard in the first game. The second game, just by watching him, it looked like he was trying a little bit harder. But again, a lot of it looked forced. I mean, it wasn't for great plays by like McKissick and those catches off weird passes and whatnot. I don't even know if we would have moved the ball that much off of him. I mean, yeah, I was very underwhelmed by Fitzpatrick. I didn't see any Fitz magic. I didn't really even see Fitz tragic. I just saw like Fitz nothing. It wasn't like he was even taking the shots and getting the interception. He wasn't even taking the shots. It was just like it was like nothing. It was nothing to go off of. And I don't know if that is by design. If it is, he's got me fooled.
Yeah, I think you're being a little kind. The other day, you didn't say Fitz nothing or Fitz tragic. You called him Fitzpatrick, which I thought was pretty funny.
Trying to. I guess I've had a couple days to calm down and just give it up. But yeah, it was just like, what? This is what we're getting. I mean, like,
yeah.
I mean, we're better off with Heineke. We're better off with that money spent somewhere else and just going with Heineke if that's what we're getting. Because Heineke, obviously, we'll get to him in a second, but he's obviously better than what we got just on the sheer effort. You know what I mean? I'd rather have, I'm sure as a baseball coach, who would you rather have out there? Someone that's going to run, I mean, that's all I got to say.
No, you got a fair point there. Before we shift to Heineke, I've seen this tossed around, and I think it might, it could hold some water, is that Fitzpatrick is kind of seeing what works, right? He's taken maybe making some throws that he normally wouldn't. He's taking some chances he normally wouldn't. And like I said, he's using the preseason, the live action against other teams of seeing what he can and can't get away with, maybe with the throws that he can trust receivers with, things like that. What's your take on that? Do you think that could be the case at all, or do you think he's just not playing well and just not making great decisions?
I just think, again, it's not even that. It's like he's not even playing enough. And I'm not saying time wise. It's just like the sense of urgency, I guess. That sense of urgency or that sense of competition is totally missing from him right now. It's like he's I don't know. I mean, it could be a lot of different things, but you'd think if he's trying things, we'd be seeing some passes that are just mistimed passes, some overthrown passes or things like that. That to me is trying things. This is more just like, just kind of just, all right, you want me to play for 2 quarters? Just call the plays and, I mean, and then holding the ball, now, I mean, you don't hold the ball. The preseason. What do you throw an interception? What are you holding the ball for? It's I was just not impressed.
No, I agree. It hasn't been great. And kind of like you said, I think maybe we did build it up a little bit more in our minds. Or I guess I said that, but we were very high on both Fitzpatrick and Heineke. Now, to your credit, I'll give you credit that you're like, they're kind of one and the same. So why don't we just roll with Heineke out there? You did say that very early on. And then it was kind of like, well, if we're going to roll with Fitzpatrick, well, then, obviously we're going to kind of put our, confidence behind him. But like I said, I remember very early on, you were like, hey, are we really getting that big of an upgrade? Are we really getting that different of a quarterback than what we have in Taylor Heineke? So, I think we're quickly seeing that, no, we're not. We are getting the guy that we had already, who's a little bit younger, a little more tread left on those tires, who's I think as a guy that should be hungry or is hungrier to kind of reclaim that quarterback position that he had last year going into the playoffs. And there's been quite a few people on Twitter, Washington football fans, that have said, hey, I mean, this is the reason why has played on so many teams, and B, has never been to the playoffs or won a playoff game, is because of the way he's playing. And I think that does kind of hold some water as well, of like, hey, if this guy was good, there's a reason why Tom Brady's only played for 2 teams. There's a reason why Peyton Manning only played for 2 teams. There's a reason why Aaron Rodgers only played for 1 team for now. When you got a good quarterback, you don't usually just let him go. And he's been passed around quite a bit. So, again, maybe we did build it up a little more than we thought it was going to be. It's like, when you're a kid and you're building it, you're like, oh man, my first kiss, I'm getting my first kiss, and it happens. You're like, oh, I mean, okay, I thought it was gonna be a bigger deal than that. It's like, yeah, you just build it up in your mind more than it really is. But shifting gears over to Taylor Heineke.
I don't know who you were kissing. Though my first kiss was amazing, and and shout out to my first kiss because it was definitely more than I thought it was gonna be built up to be. I had it the exact opposite. I was like, that's no big deal, and I was like, that was a big deal.
Swing.
But anyway, yeah, shifting gears. We're gonna go to our boy Taylor.
Taylor Heineke, yeah, he's like you said, I don't know how much of a difference it's really been between the two. He's shown, I think, a little bit more confidence. His timing and rhythm has been really good. The stats may not always show up as, in preseason, it's hard to judge just by stats anyway. But like I said, I don't know how much of a different quarterback we're really getting or how much of a drop off or an increase in either of these guys that, Heineke or Fitzpatrick, how much of a change it really is. But from what I've seen in preseason, again, taking it with a grain of salt, I think I would almost rather roll out there with Heineke and let it go. Because, I mean, a good majority of these guys that are returning starters, they loved him. They had his back in the game against Carolina and in the playoffs. They had his back, and they were rallying around him. He was controlling that huddle. He was doing a great job. We've mentioned it time and time again. Chase Young goes up to him, hey, you got this? He said, I know, this is what I do. And Chase Young goes back on the sidelines like, I like that dude. Like that, I like number 4. He said, this is what I do. And, so when you have the guy, the emotional leader like Chase Young, he's got your back. Like, I understand that Ron Rivera, you probably want to go with the guy that has a little bit more experience than Ryan Fitzpatrick, but there's only one way to get experience. And that's to get experience, right? So why not, it's a 17-game season now. You really don't even have to start worrying about, I think, wins and losses to like week 5 or 6. Teams are still trying to figure out who they are. Now, is it, you get to give yourself a leg up if you start out 3-1, 4-0? Absolutely. But with a 17-game season, with what we think our division is going to be, which I think it's going to be fairly similar to what we saw last season, I don't think you need to be in a hurry to win super early. So maybe that's our thought process where it's like, hey, let's run Fitz out there for the first couple weeks. If it's not working, then hey, we can go to Heineke. But my thought process is you kind of know what you have with Fitzpatrick. You've seen it for the last 15 years, however long he's been in the league. Why not roll Heineke out there and see what you have in him and see if maybe he can, kind of recapture some of that magic and some of that lightning in a bottle he caught at the end of last season.
Well, I mean, it's just with Fitzpatrick is like you have him there for one reason in my mind. Just and I'm gonna shift it back to Heineke in a second. But you have him there for one reason. We're like someone that can move the ball down the field and it's going to take shots.
100%.
And it's like you're not. I mean, you could say the veteran leadership. You could say all this stuff. It's like he really hasn't ever really. I've never heard anyone say that got developed by Ryan Fitzpatrick. I've never.
Right.
So you've never heard. He's never. He's not that. I mean, everyone likes him, but he's not that proverbial locker room leader you hear about. He's the guy everybody likes. He's like, oh, he's not the Drew Brees on the sideline getting everybody fired up. So it's not like you went out there and got him for those things. And so if he's not doing the thing you got him for, it's like if you got like an overaged like luchador wrestler. It's like he can't do flips and stuff anymore. He's not. I mean, you're not going to bring him in to wrestle. Well, I mean, it's going to be. Like that's the only reason he's here is because he does cool flips and whatnot. And Fitzpatrick, if he's not going to be doing the things that we brought him here, which is press the ball down the field, take chances, take shots, then what do we have him there for? Heineke has that more of that sense of, like I put it to you the last time, I think it was in a text, like Fitzpatrick is a guy, if he goes into battle, he's just going to go in there guns a-blazing, either kill everybody really fast or get killed really fast. Like one or the other. It's like going to be, Heineke is that guy that going to battle, you have to blow off one arm, he's going to get up, and he's going to still come out, you're going to blow up his other arm, and he's going to be, stumping down there, and he's still going to be, until you blow up every limb he has. And that's the kind of guy I want in the field. When you're talking about guys with similar, skill sets and abilities,
yeah.
and not to mention the team behind him that he's already won over that team. It doesn't matter. Again, we've talked about, quarterbacks like Tony Romo, Kirk Cousins, have these great stats, whatnot. But you put him in a situation against Tom Brady in a wild card game, and you play like that, it doesn't get more intense like that. Your first start. And he was able to rise to that occasion. You know what I mean? They're just very. You can't teach that, and you can't grow that. And Ryan Fitzpatrick has failed to show that. And I didn't mean to rhyme, but I did. And but anyway, Heineke. I mean, and that's all I need to say. And just talking about Fitzpatrick, as far as Heineken, is just what I said. He's that type of competitor. Already has the team. He's already going to take the shot. Yes, he has stumbled in preseason, but he's been in there with the 2s and 3s. He's been in there with all the backups. He hasn't been in there with that starting unit. I think that's probably going to happen. Hopefully, if I'm a smart coach and there's not a clear cut starter going into your final preseason game, I'm going to give the second guy a chance because we already saw with 2 games of the guy with the first guy. So give the second guy a chance with the starters and let's see if he can get that ball moving and score. And what he can do, and that should solve all the doubt that anyone else's mind, but who should be the quarterback of this team? Because again, Fitzpatrick has not been a clear-cut favorite, and we already saw the Bears, talking. I don't know if you saw that Justin Fields. He's going to start. I think he's our best chance to win. Andy Dalton's already gotten the boot. I think Fitzpatrick is in that same realm, so he's done. Let's put him in that same boot.
No, the last thing I saw about the Bears was that Andy Dalton was still going to be starting.
Well, I saw something saying Justin Fields, Coach Matt Nagy said Justin Fields was starting preseason 3 because, quote, he gives us the best chance to win.
Oh, preseason game 3. Yeah. Oh, okay. I didn't catch that part. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Give him the chance. If you put if it's again in a situation like that where, Andy Dalton hasn't done anything. Again, he hasn't even been Andy Dalton there. You start the guy, Mac Jones should probably start this last game too. It's like you start this guy when it's that close to see what he can do with your starters. And if it's a better click, the decision is made for you. I mean, it should be pretty obvious. I guess, I don't know. I'm sure there's politics involved and things that we never want to talk about or don't know enough about to talk intelligently about. But from a fan's perspective, from a scouting perspective, from knowing that the difference of these wins and losses a lot of times is just the chemistry that the quarterback has out there and their determination to win.
Yeah, no, 100%.
So that's my take.
No, I agree, and to a degree, I agree with the point of like, if you don't, the only thing is like, it's tough. Like if your number one guy hasn't set himself apart and hasn't been that clear cut difference, then why don't you start the second guy? Like, there's a reason he's the second guy though, right? And so it's, and not saying that I agree that Heineke should be the second guy or, what have you. Neither of them have really set themselves apart. So it's really, pick the lesser of 2 evils or pick your poison, just, pick a card off the top of the deck and see what you got with both of them. But I agree. I'd say let Heineke roll out there with the starters, see what he can make happen, have some extended play with the starters. I know it's tough now with a three game preseason. Usually the third game is the quote unquote dress rehearsal. I don't know if that's still going to be the case this week with preseason, or at least let them rock a half together, with the ones. But, obviously time will tell which situation what direction they go in with the quarterback position. But I think now we kind of still have more questions than we do answers. And, that's unfortunate because coming into this, we felt pretty good about the quarterback situations, at least about the stability of, what Fitzpatrick could possibly offer us. And if he wasn't able to offer it, maybe Heineke could. But again, I don't know if either guys really set themselves apart to really command or deserves like, hey, you are the starter, other than what we saw last season with Taylor Heineke.
And that's hard to. It's as time goes on, we forget those things. We forget how he inspired that team. We forget how he made us feel. But like you said, I don't think that question's ever been answered. To me, it was the only question we really had on offense. You know what I mean?
100%. No, absolutely.
The only question we had is quarterback. It was the only question we had on the team. And obviously, we cannot, which I'm sure you'll get to, our kicking situation. But I mean, those are the two biggest questions we have on the team that decide games. And obviously, quarterback, he's the quarterback. But when you have 4 guys out there, basically, we saw 4 guys play, and to be honest, Steve Montez probably had the best game at the end of that game where he actually we should have tied him in the first game, against the Patriots. I don't know if you saw. Did you see the end of the game?
Yeah.
Where he threw that was a catch. I mean, when your knee hits the ground, that's a catch. Even the Patriots commentator was like, "Man, the touchdown was a closer call than this 2-point conversion." I thought that was a surefire, So anyway, but the way he led that, and we didn't see that type of quarterback play out of anybody so far. to be able to command and drive an offense down there in that type of situation, or even, towards the half, or just a sense of urgency. Like I said, I've seen out of Heineke a little, obviously slid on the runs he's done, and he's played smart, and he's been shifty, he's been rolling out of the pockets. Like Heineke's been Heineke, but again, he's been doing it with the twos. So we need to see him with the three, and I think that's the closest we're going to get to this answer we have of who it can be. And at that point, it's going to be games are going to be cost to finding this out. You know what I mean? It's going to cost wins and losses in the regular season when we know the answer could have been, or we could have got closer to an answer in the preseason by just trying this out. So it's to me it's a given. They have to.
Yeah. No, for sure. So going over, shifting a little bit to a couple notable cuts we made just today. Steven Sims has been released by the Washington football team. Kind of saw that happening. Struggled last season mightily, and not, with the lack of opportunities. He was given plenty of opportunities, and he just literally fumbled them every, a good majority of the time that he got them. Or he just straight up dropped him, whether those opportunities or the football. He did both. So they released him. The Washington football team releases him. I'm sure he'll find a spot somewhere as at least a specialist, a kick returner. And last week they released Kelvin Harmon, who was kind of an odd fan favorite, considering he did okay his rookie year, was injured all of last year. And I saw a ton of people that were really upset about the Kelvin Harmon thing. And I even tweeted out, I was like, look, I get it. Like you saw some potential there with Kelvin Harmon. Got to remember though, he was, drafted under the previous regime before Ron Rivera got here. Not that it's, that's the end all be all decision there, but it's a card counted against you. The best ability you can have is availability, and he didn't have that last year. So if you're not setting the world on fire when you come back, especially in the position that's probably the most crowded for Washington, and you're not setting yourself apart, you don't really have a use. He wasn't going to be used as a specialist, as a kick returner, punt returner. I think Isaiah Wright is kind of leading the clubhouse and being our punt returner. Although I wouldn't sleep on another guy. I'll mention him later. But you look at the wide receiver group. I said Terry McLaurin's making the team, Curtis Samuel's making the team, Cam Sims is making the team, and I think Adam Humphries is making the team. So you're looking at one, maybe two more spots left available for the wide receiver, and one of those is going to be a specialist, is going to be a returner. You're fighting an uphill battle if you're Kelvin Harmon. So he wasn't able to get on the field, wasn't able to stay healthy. So they did what they had to and cut him. And I don't think anybody that was like, I saw a ton of people like, oh, now we're back to making dumb decisions. We're back to like, what? How could you possibly justify saying that that's a dumb decision when the guy wasn't on the field? He showed flashes. It wasn't like he came in and took the league by storm and was, Justin Jefferson lighting it up his rookie year. He had some flashes of some stuff that he could do, but when you're competing in a highly competitive group, wide receiver group or position group, like, you got to come in, especially when you miss a whole year, and just set the whole world afire, at least set the team or the organization on fire with your play to justify keeping you around. And like I said, he wasn't doing that, so they had to cut him loose. And I think it was the right move. I'm sure he'll find a spot somewhere else as well. But with looking around in that wide receiver room, we're gonna end up cutting a couple guys that are pretty good. Once we get your thoughts, we'll kind of get your thoughts on the final position group for this wide receiver. But what do you think so far about the personnel changes that have been made?
Well, we've spoken of Sims for a while, Sims Jr., Steven Sims, and his, again, big moments costing us big times. So we really don't see a spot for him. So we thought that would happen eventually. As far as Kelvin Harmon, again, you said the same thing, that, you got to look at the prototype, like, I almost want to say frames, types of receivers that are on Washington. And when you look at someone like Kelvin Harmon, you got Terry McLaurin, you got Diami Brown, you got guys, Curtis Samuel, they're just better than him. That are just better than him, and that what he would be doing on the team. So you got guys like bigger guys, Cam Sims. You have Gandy Golden, and you have Isaiah Wright. So those are different types of receivers. Yeah, see,
I when I mentioned those four, I forgot Diami Brown. I mentioned Diami Brown in that tweet. So that's five guys right there.
And that's what I'm saying. So I mean, it's easy. The last two are Gandy Golden and you can see just the push of him out there, and I can see that they believe in him and Isaiah Wright being the last two.
Yeah.
I mean, just to get to that, it's almost like the writing's on the wall because unless somebody steps up that I haven't seen. I've watched both games. They're not playing in the game. I promise you, they're not going to make the roster because those other guys are playing in the games. So I mean, it's pretty apparent to me where they're going with with those positions. But again, it's hard to judge.
Carry 7 wide receivers
or 6, one on the practice squad possibly. Who did you just count them off? Let's see: Terry, Diami, Adam, Curtis,
Cam Sims,
Gandy Golden, Isaiah Wright. So yeah. Ooh, so Isaiah Wright and whichever, if Isaiah Wright's the punt returner, he'll get it. Gandy Golden will be gone because they're keeping.
See, I think Gandy Golden's making the team. I think Isaiah Wright's making the team. I think a sneaky guy that could be cut.
Adam Humphries.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's a total Fitzpatrick guy. I mean, that's a total Fitzpatrick move. I had a chemistry with that guy in Tampa Bay or whatever. I think where they played in Tampa Bay or in Tennessee or probably both.
Tampa Bay. It was Tampa Bay.
Yeah. But yes, I mean, again, we have that type of receiver. Yeah, it's funny because in Madden, they dropped the new Madden Mutt players, and I looked and they had the Adam Humphries card and the Curtis Samuel card, and Adam Humphries is a 75, Curtis Samuel is a 79. He's ranked 4 higher than him. Speed, not even close. That's who they got to replace you. I mean, your type. Again, he's the best receiver we have of that type, that small slot in guy that can do all kinds of things. I don't see him playing on the outside. I still think they're going to bring in like Cam Sims or a bigger body receiver as that other outside receiver to complement Terry McLaurin. But again, it's hard to judge that play because of the quarterback play. You know what I mean? Like we've been seeing a lot more out of again Gandy Golden, these other guys because it's been the backups, Montez and Heineke and Allen doing all the actually good passing plays. So we haven't really seen the chemistry that this wide receiver group can have because we haven't had anybody at the realm.
Yeah. No, yeah. So I think we're kind of on the same page there with the wide receiver group. But like I said, I think Andy Golden's sticking around. I think they're going to give him a shot. I mean, his size is just like, I mean, we haven't had a wide receiver that big in a while. I mean, I think Cam Sims is the only one that rivals him. I'll have to look up the official stats, I guess, if you will.
Cam Sims is 6'5" for sure. So I don't know if Gandy Golden's bigger than that. I mean, I think
Gandy Golden's 6'4", 223. Cam Sims 6'5", 220 is what they have him listed at. So I mean, about basically the same size.
You're talking that Brandon Marshall.
Shit, I forgot about Dax Milne. I don't think Dax Milne's making the team. I think he's gonna be a practice squad guy. I forgot about Dax. I mean, we really haven't seen much from him anyway.
Exactly. We haven't. Like I said, if you haven't been playing. If you haven't been playing in the games, you're not gonna make the team. It's as simple as that.
So that takes me to my next position that I want to talk about was tight end. Obviously, we know Logan Thomas is going to make the team. He just got re-upped. I think John Bates is going to make the team. I've actually been pretty the first game. I don't think he didn't make a catch the second game. The first game, I was actually pretty impressed with some of the catches he had made, and they'd even said against Patriots like, hey, this guy he gets a rep of being a blocking tight end, but he can go up and make some catches too. So I think it's Logan Thomas. I think it's John Bates, and I think it's a toss-up. If I gun to my head, I think it's Tamarick Hemingway as the number 3 wide receiver, or excuse me, number 3 tight end.
I'd say Ricky Seals-Jones.
See, and that's the only guy that I was going back and forth with Ricky Seals-Jones because he has a lot of NFL experience. He's a good wide receiver. He's athletic. I liked him when he was at A&M. I liked him when he played in Arizona with the Cardinals. He's a big body. 6'5", 243, athletic, long arms. I mean, he's one of those guys that could scratch his ankles standing straight up. He's just got long arms and lanky. so you can go out and make a a spectacular catch. I don't think his blocking is very good. I think he is very much so a receiving tight end. I think Samus Reyes, he's finally coming back. We'll see if he can get on the field and how he does, but I think he's gonna be a practice squad guy. So yeah, I was going back and forth between Ricky Seals-Jones and Tamark Hemingway. Again, we're right in lockstep there as well. But again, it's really tough to see what these tight ends can do, because it all leads back to that quarterback position, how poor it's been. Last thing I wanted to touch on, I don't know, we can talk defense a little bit, but we got one of the best defenses in the league.
Exactly. I've not been put it that way. I have not been disappointed by defense. So I think that the hype that we had going for there is still pretty much the same, if not
very much so. Although there was a play this past week that Derek Forrest, I don't know what he was looking at.
When he bit on the. He bit
so hard. I mean, like, it was clear as day that it was a fake, and he was just like running. Even he was Bobby Boucher in that dude, and the guy had stopped running, and he was still like going after him. And the quarterback had a little bootleg. I was like, because I had to look up. I was like, who is that? Who was that?
He looks like when you like throwing your ball to the dog, and that last time you throw it, like you fake it, and you just take up. When he turns around, he's like, hey. Like he looked like I had like that. You fooled me, look.
Like, I mean, if we're going on Madden ratings, like, awareness is like -7 on that one, because he was just, I mean, he was a bull that saw red just going right at him. And like I said, it was a fake, clear as day. The quarterback literally runs right by him as he's bootlegging. That was the only tough play. But
I can't believe they didn't get a better play out of that. Dude, that quarterback had like nothing but green and didn't even and sat there like an idiot.
Yeah.
But I mean, yes, but not the bigger idiot in the play was definitely our Forrest boy there. Run, Forrest, run!
Yeah, that's what he was doing. He was just running out of his leg braces, just sprinting. I've been really pleased with William Bradley King. I think he's making the team. I still think Shaka Toney's making the team. I'm getting off track. I was gonna go to the running backs, but since we're already down this road, DeShazer Everett, Bobby McClain, Jeremy Reeves, and Cam Curl, and Landon Collins. So that's 5 safeties. One of them's getting cut. Who is it?
I'm thinking it's gonna probably be Everett.
Bang. Same. Yep. Agreed. Really cool story. Ron Rivera last week, since we're talking about the safety position, Ron Rivera last week was on Pardon My Take, talking to the guys, and it was part of this week that this thing they do called Grit Week, where they travel around to different training camps and do interviews with different NFL coaches, quarterbacks, all of this stuff. They have one coming out with Ryan Fitzpatrick, I believe, this week, either Wednesday or Friday. But they always start off and say, "What does grit mean to you during Grit Week?" And Ron Rivera had a great story about Jeremy Reeves. He was like, he came out, he was busting his ass, he was showing that he belonged in the NFL. And we were going to cut him. He's like, I mean, there just wasn't enough room. It was a numbers game. I said, we're going to cut him. We're going to put him on the practice squad, and then we're going to give him a shot if he deserves it, or if one comes up, I should say. And he said, well, sure enough, due to injuries, it was before we had the chance to cut him, because they had already told him, like, hey, you're going to be cut. We're going to bring you back, but we're going to give you every single opportunity you can to get back on that field. Every opportunity you can get to get back on that field, but it's up to you to take advantage of it. Landon Collins obviously gets injured. Eric Reed is out there. We're wondering, hey, why don't we go sign Eric Reed? Why don't we sign Eric Reed? And Ron Rivera says, I went to Jeremy Reeves and I said, look, I gave you my word. I was going to give you every opportunity I could to get you on that field. Here's your opportunity. I gave you my word, and I'm going to stick to it. I could go sign this guy that I played with, that played with me before, who's a proven NFL veteran, but I gave you my word that this is going to be your shot. And he said, and he took it and ran with it. That was grit. He said, and you know what? He went back and told the other guys too. He's like, hey man, coach gave me his word. He was going to give me a shot. He's given me my shot. So he said that Ron Rivera said that kind of helped the other guys in the locker room too, like really get behind Ron Rivera and believe in stuff and buy in. And I thought that was cool because, I mean, we had no idea behind the scenes of that was going to happen. Jeremy Reeves, he was literally that close to being cut if Landon Collins doesn't get injured. And he goes out and has a great rookie year. and, becomes this guy that's like, holy shit, Jeremy Reeves, we found this guy, this diamond in the rough. And all that happens because Landon Collins gets injured. He gets his shot and he takes it, which that has really nothing to do with this podcast, but I thought just a really, really cool story of how that happened and how that came about for Jeremy Reeves.
Yeah, I remember when we wanted Eric Reed, when Landon Collins went down, because we already had such promise for this defense. Didn't want to see any large holes there. And I don't remember the story. Obviously, the story hadn't come out then, but I remember him saying that he believes in who he had in camp, or I think it was something like that. I believe who we have in this camp, or something like that. So, and we just said, and then at that point we were on the Enron we trust, and he's gonna do it, and I think we still believe in that too, and that just goes to show that we are following the right type of character and the right type of coach out there. So. And it's good. Those are good stories. You're kind of like a Rudy story almost, where like the whole team's probably behind the guy too, because I'm sure the team sees him busting his ass in camp too.
100%.
It's like and saying, "Oh man, it's gonna suck." And then that guy's, "Hey man, I'm back," and oh man, coach said, So I'm sure that really, that was good for the team morale as well. So yeah, it's a good story.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So shifting back over to the offensive side of the ball, the running back position. So Antonio Gibson, I think, I forget who came out and said it. It might have been Heineke. It was Kyle Allen said that in a press conference that Antonio Gibson is going to be the Christian McCaffrey of this team. Like, they're going to use him the same way they use Christian McCaffrey, which I think that guy is perfectly capable of doing it. Maybe not to that level, but I think he could potentially get close to that level, because a guy that's played wide receiver, a guy that's obviously very good at running back. I wouldn't be surprised if we see 1,000 yards rushing, 500 yards receiving from Antonio Gibson. J.D. McKissick, we know what he can do, catching the ball out of the backfield. And then comes the third running back, a guy that has stolen my heart, a guy that I was on when we signed him out of Buffalo as an undrafted free agent, Jarrett Patterson. He's taken the Washington football team by storm. Talk about a guy that's taking advantage of every opportunity he gets. Has, I think, 170 all-purpose yards this past weekend, running the ball, catching the ball, returning kickoffs, not dropping them, to actually making, busting off a couple 20, 30-yard returns. Jarrett Patterson, I texted you this after the first week in New England. I said this when we signed him as an undrafted free agent, that this guy's going to be on the 53-man roster. And I think I am 100% correct. I think Peyton Barber might be the odd man out, because Jarrett Patterson can do exactly what Peyton Barber can do. He's that short yardage back. He's younger, again, got more tread on those tires, and he's explosive doing it. He gets that ball and hits that hole. He don't care who's on the other side either, because he knows he's falling forward. He knows whoever is on the other side of that hole, they're going to get the brunt of the pain, and he's just going to keep on trucking, keep moving those legs. A guy doesn't 450 yards and 7 touchdowns in a game without being kind of good. I don't care if it's in the MAC, the WAC, the Pac-12, the Big 10, Big 12. I don't care. You run for 450 yards and 7 touchdowns, you're probably pretty good. And I think Jarrett Patterson's going to be really good, and a guy that's going to be an unsung hero for this Washington football team.
Well, definitely. I mean, I think our boy Jarrett Patterson, JP, draws a lot of comparisons to our man MJD. It reminds me of a little more Maurice Jones-Drew.
Very much so.
A little Maurice Jones-Drew out there who just gets low, can do all types of things with the ball in his hand, just finds a way to get those little extra yards. Like I don't want to call him. It's like almost Barry Sanders-esque, the way he kind of still makes things out of nothing. Basically, is what I should say. Look, it looks like it's nothing, and you see him pop through a little hole, get low, and continue to drive his legs and make plays. Another one of those guys that, like we talk about, that has that like Heineke-esque, where you're not going to just knock him down. You're going to have to drag this guy down. You're going to have to, shoot him 5 times on the leg to keep him down. He's just going to keep getting up and keep coming back at you. But he's one of those guys that's taken the opportunities given to him and has run with them. I think that he's definitely, if you're a Washington football team fan, you know who he is. And he's probably stole the entire preseason. I don't think of any player that's played better than him, above expectation, more than him. I mean, I think we knew what we had in a lot of these players. Obviously, we didn't know what we had in him. But I think that he's, above all else, I think head over heels played better than anybody above the expectation. So I think he does deserve a spot in this roster, and I think he will make one. That will make one for him.
I think so. I'm trying to go back to look at the text message back in May of what I sent you, because I know I sent you something of like, yo, we just wait till you see this guy. Mm-hmm. He's freaking good. But I was on it, and like you said, I really like seeing him receiving the ball, or excuse me, not receiving the ball, returning the ball. Get him in the return game. I mean, again, you want to talk about a guy that's, like you said, does the extra stuff, gets you a couple extra yards. I mean, one extra miss, two extra misses, and that's a house call. And he's got enough speed, he's got enough explosiveness that he's got enough explosion that he can make a touchdown every once in a while. But yeah, no, like you said, he's really kind of taken the team by storm for the preseason and been that guy that if they take 4 running backs, I'd be surprised. He would definitely be a part of that. But I think with the wide receiver position being as stacked and heavy as it is, I think they take 3 running backs and by God Almighty, if this guy touches a practice squad, he's going to be out of there. Somebody's going to sign him, so he better be on that 53-man roster, or I'll be very, very surprised if he isn't.
You take him in fantasy?
I thought about it, but I was like, no, that's not a guy that you're third. Maybe just like a snatch and keep them cached away at the bottom of your lineup just in case something weird happens. A snatch and stash type of deal. But it crossed my. Don't get me wrong, it definitely crossed my mind. But I was like, I don't think that's the type of guy. You're the third running back on a team. Kind of tough to get some run unless you're like in a 16-man league. So if you're in a 16-man league, Jarrett Patterson, that might be your guy. But if you're in a 8, 10, or 12 guy, or 8, 10, or 12 team league, probably not the guy you're looking for. Just yet.
He'll be a waiver wire, maybe week 15.
Say, hey, playoffs, championship. Maybe you never know.
When everybody else is hurt and depleted, and your roster is looking like the yes. But yeah, he's. I'll be very surprised. Peyton Barber. One of those guys, what you're getting in him. I don't think he's not gonna, his ceiling has been met. Lamar Miller, we already cut with Lamar Miller, didn't we?
Yeah,
we already cut Lamar Miller. Right after he made that excellent catch in the end of that first preseason game to that touchdown from Montez. But anyway, I think I think we're pretty set on those positions. Again, I think that on offense, we need this final question. It all boils down. We need this final question answered. I think that everything else. Defense, even without our starting corners, I don't think our starting corners even played last. I don't think Fuller didn't play. I don't think William Jackson played either. So I don't know. Our defense is just gonna be insane, and I think we have to have someone that can at least. I'm like, go sign Josh Johnson. Remember that guy? He got cut by somebody. I think he's still out there. We need somebody. Heineke's on the team. I think Heineke needs to be this quarterback. I said it all along. He's our quarterback. I'm with Chase Young. I'm sure if you ask Chase Young. I saw an interview with Chase Young. I think you probably saw the same one where they asked him about Fitzpatrick. It might have been after the first preseason or the second preseason game, Superfly. He didn't say the things he said about Heineke when he talked. He says he's cool. You didn't hear that. Yeah. You didn't hear that
that excitement and that. Yeah.
He commands leadership. I feel like I go to war with him. You didn't. You didn't hear the type of the things that guy. You don't have. That's my quarterback. You had that Terrell Owens moment. You didn't have that type of talk when he was talking about Fitzpatrick and it didn't take long at all. It took 2 sentences from him to run to the sideline to be. I like that. To be all over Heineke's Nizzos. So I think Heineke's the guy. The team knows. We all should know. If we don't, we're delusional thinking Fitzpatrick is better than what he's been. So Heineke, come on home, buddy.
Heineke, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got for today's show. A lot of stuff. Like I said, we had a lot to catch up on. Did you have anything else before we get out of here?
Just a quick note. I don't know if this is real or not. I don't know who shared it. It was something I read just while I was actually waiting for the show to get started. But a potential Trent Williams trade from San Francisco to Chicago for a 2023 second.
Really?
I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't know. Just something to ponder on there. But I don't think that. Didn't the 49ers just re-sign him to a big deal? I thought they did, didn't they?
Yeah.
So that doesn't make any sense to me. That could be speculation.
What about the Raiders calling the Bears and saying, "Hey, you think we can get Khalil Mack back?" Have you seen that? Did you see that? Yeah, before free agency started, because the Raiders knew that the Bears are going to be cap strapped. That's why they had to cut Kyle Fuller. They gave the Bears a call and were like, "Hey, I know you're paying Khalil Mack a lot of money over there. Why don't we take him off your hands? Send him back over here." And the Bears pretty much said, Click.
All they did is call them, and they played that song, Return of the Mac. Huh? Return of the Mac. Can we do it? Return of the Mac. Pretty please.
Return of the Mac. We'll give you a first rounder.
Return of the Mac. You can't afford him anyway.
Had to have been what they did. Had to have been. If not, maybe that's why it didn't work. Maybe that's what they should have done, and they would have got him.
Exactly. Teams, owners, you want these negotiating skills right here.
These are the brains you need in your front office right here.
Exactly.
These are the brains. You know, all these guys that are, spent 15, 20 years in the league, would they think they know? No. You need these brains, these weird brains. Yeah, that's exactly what you need.
They signed Fitzpatrick. That's what they do. They signed Fitzpatrick. Exactly. We don't sign Fitzpatrick. We return of the Mac. Yes, we do. Return of the Mac.
Too perfect. Well, with that, we'll go ahead and leave it here. Thanks. Hopefully you tuned in here to this Facebook Live. If not, you can catch us over on YouTube. Again, searching Allies Behind Enemy Lines podcast. Go ahead and smash that subscription button, ring that notification bell, so as soon as we drop the latest and greatest heat, your phone dings, your computer dings and says, hey, if you see your phone, it's overheating. Why? Because you got some absolute fire waiting for you. Go ahead and come watch it over at YouTube. Maybe if that's not your gig, you can go over to Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. You can, again, also find us on SoundCloud, all by searching Allies Behind Enemy Lines podcasts. Check us out on Twitter at AlliesBEL. There you'll find the link in our bio for everything I just laid out there for you. And again, you can also go buy your t-shirt there just in time for the season to start. Let everybody know loud and proud who your favorite Washington football team podcast is that is in Texas, because that's got to be us. I don't know very many others.
I didn't think there was any other one. We win by default.
We win by default. Exactly. And even if we're so good, nobody even wants to start another one. That should tell you something right there. They're like, how are we supposed to compete with these guys?
It's because others have done it before and they have not been found ever again. I think the Cowboy fans got them. We're just been lucky enough that you Allies have kept us alive. So continue, please. We need you.
100%. And if anybody else was thinking about starting up a Washington football team podcast based out of Texas, once they saw that Return of the Mac, they're like, nah, we can't compete with this. We cannot compete with that.
That's fire content right there. That's fire content.
He went ahead and just closed the books on that one. Yeah, that'll do it for us here. Again, on Allies Behind Enemy Lines. Thoroughly behind enemy lines, where I enjoy holding it down for all our Washington football team fans. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next time.